welcome to the tour. I'm your host, Michelle Cortens, the tree fruit specialist with Perennia. We're at Spur Brothers Farm, so let's go find Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Generu, and this is Spur Brothers Farms. We have about 1,000 acres of apples, peaches, pears, and lots of vegetable crops, potatoes, onions, carrots. We also have a strawberry U-pick and a small farm market. There are 5 family members on the farm, so it truly is a family farm here.
So we're going to talk about root pruning at this stop here, and so the first question is, what varieties and rootstocks have you root pruned?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of different varieties. Right now we're here in the pear block, and we have both Boss, Cold Snap, Clap, and Harrow Sweet. All those varieties have been done here, and they are on Old Home Farmingdale 97, most of the block. We've also done a fair bit in the apples as well. So we've done a lot of Honeycrisp. We've done Cortlands, we've done Spies, anything that's overly vigorous. We have attempted to do some root pruning on. And we've been doing it for multiple years, and the majority of the apple rootstocks are 106, 111s. We've done some even M7s and 26s.
Okay, cool. And so how close and deep is that blade relative to the tree?
Yeah, so the recommendation is for it to be about a foot deep. Our blade goes about 8 to 9 inches deep. It's a large blade, and it does a good job. Distance from the tree is, we try to put it right about where the drip line would be, kind of like the edge of the tree line. In here, we did do it closer than that. It's supposed to be whatever the diameter of the trunk of the tree is. It would be 3 times the distance of that. So that's basically what we've done in apples, but in pears, because of the vigor of the trees, we've attempted to do it closer.
Okay. And so has the root pruning helped to control the tree vigor?
Yes, and you're not going to see results in the first year, and you may not even see that big of results in the second year, but by the 3rd year, we really start to see the trees settle down, especially the Honeycrisp that were on 106s and 111s. I had seen it years ago at an IFTA tour, and I saw it done on grafted Honeycrisp, just like what we had. And we had a really hard time keeping the vigor under control, and we were doing apogee and light pruning and doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, light on nitrogen, and nothing was working. And their trees, after they did root pruning, were just beautiful. And I said, that's what we need to do. So we bought the blade, and those Honeycrisp trees have really settled down, and it has decreased our bitter pit as well in those trees.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay. So at any point were you concerned about damaging the trees, and did you end up seeing any damage?
Yes, so it's a little nerve-wracking the first time you do root pruning, for sure. And we tested it out. We didn't do big areas at first. We did small areas. We did a row here, and then left a row, and then maybe did another row. And so the first year we did a small amount, and then the next year we did more. And now any place that has like big overgrown trees, we just go, and you can cover tons of acreage in one day. Like, we only have the blade out basically one day, because you can go very fast. And yeah, and now I have less concerns. I'm not saying there's no concerns.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want me to speak about, just the pear trees here.
Yeah.
So we did do it closer because this is a trellis orchard. And these are big rootstocks, and we're having a lot of trouble getting them under control. So we did put the blade closer this year. And about a week or so, well, probably about 2 weeks ago, I just started to notice that all the tips of the trees were red. And you drive by, of course it's right by my house, you drive by every day and you're like, what is wrong with those trees? All the tips are red, like bright red. Anyways, and I'm guessing, and I've asked around a little bit, and it seems like the stress that we put on the trees by cutting those roots, has affected that new growth, which is exactly what we want to be doing.
Yeah.
And so now the block, looking at it, for pear trees on this large of a rootstock, looks like you sprayed apogee on them.
Yeah.
I mean, they have settled, like, there's not this huge shoot growth that we would normally see in them. How this is going to play out over the winter, we'll see, because it does put the tree under extra stress. But it doesn't seem like, it seems like the trees are doing well, and they've recovered from a lot of the red tips that we're seeing in here. So I say it's positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And so what time of year do you usually do the root pruning?
Yeah, so we try to do it right at bloom time. That's the best time to do it. And it doesn't take very long. So one day out with the blade, we can make that happen. You've kind of got like a couple week window. So that's what the recommendation is during bloom time. The longer you leave it, the less effect you're going to have.
Okay.
And the earlier before you do that, the more effect you're going to have. So we're still kind of trying to play it fairly safe and do it during that bloom time.
Okay. Excellent. And so have you seen any effect on fruit set or fruit size?
Yeah, so it does tend, or they say that it does make your fruit size, can make your fruit size smaller, and it can increase your fruit size. So I can't honestly say that I've noticed a big difference in fruit size or fruit set, but at the same time, I would be hesitant to put the blade on an ambrosia or a gala, where I'm already struggling with fruit size. The things that we're putting the blade on are things I'm not concerned about fruit size on. Honeycrisp, no problem. Spies, Cortlands, no problem getting that fruit size. So if they're a little smaller, it's not going to hurt them any.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Thanks for telling us about the root pruning. So at this site, Lisa's going to tell us about a comparison. So what are we looking at here, Lisa?
Yeah, so we have, it's all Honeycrisp here, but we have two different rootstocks. Up this way, we have M26, and on the lower section, we have G935. Everything this way has been fumigated, the ones the M26s are on, and everything this way has not been fumigated.
Okay, good. So that's the basis for the rest of the questions here. So have you noticed a different performance of the M26 and the G935 on the fumigated and the non-fumigated?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious when you walk in this block how big of a difference there is between the two different rootstocks. These were planted in 2019, and our M26s are still struggling to get to the top wire. The G935s were already up in the top wire last year. So yeah, pretty stark difference between the two rootstocks.
Right. So it's kind of the opposite to what you expected, and when I came into this block I was surprised and had to do a double take because the M26 are on the fumigated and they're shorter than the G935 that are not fumigated.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. No, and it wasn't a set out trial. It was we have more trees than we have space for that we fumigated for. So, well, G935 is supposed to be a good rootstock on replant sites. So let's put some G935s on the bottom end because we had some room here. And I thought it would probably, I was hoping it was going to balance out and you'd see a nice even row of trees, and that's just not how it turned out.
Wow. So there's a few other variables, like the trees came from different nurseries. So any comments on how that might affect what we're looking at?
Yeah, so I would say the G935s in general were a bit stronger trees right from the get-go, and the M26s were slightly weaker. Having said that, I have G935s that look very similar to this that I have over further that have also reached the top wire. So I think nursery does play a factor into it, but it's not the whole story here for sure.
Right. Okay. So what's your approach to replant disease now?
Yeah, so we've been fumigating for years now. I mean, we don't put in a block without fumigation. but we've seen a lot of challenges in starting young blocks over the last few years, and so we're trying to take a different approach and do more soil sampling for nematodes and just in general see what we have going on in the soil before we start planting, and trying to manage a lot of those things that we're struggling with cover crops. And so the last two blocks, the last 2 years, we have not fumigated orchard sites. Hopefully that works out for us.
Okay. And you've got a soil test with you now?
Yeah, so this is just an example, and I know everyone can't quite see this, but this is not this particular site, but we do a lot of testing for nematodes, not just here, but on a lot of our vegetable land as well. So the year that we took the sample, root lesion is one of the biggest problems that we have in tree fruits, and the number was 532. We planted a pearl millet there, and the next year's analysis, taken at the same time or within, a week, brought that number down to 4.
Wow.
So 532 is a lot, and now we're down to 4, and that's per 100 grams of soil.
Okay.
So that's a pretty big difference. And so we have consistently seen our nematode numbers come down, our nematode numbers in root lesion come down, not necessarily root knot, but root lesion come down using pearl millet. So we've been putting pearl millet in. We've done some brown mustard as well. And then, of course, that only takes care of the nematode issue. You still have disease issues in the soil. And so we're trying to control that in our younger trees by, using Alliette when the trees are young and trying it that way. We're also upping our rootstocks to the next level up. Okay. Whatever we think we need, we're going one more higher, in vigor, so that we can get them to the top wire quicker, and hopefully the trees will be under less stress too, and be able to get to the top wire and start cropping before we're worrying about, how the trees are, whether the trees are going to make it through that first couple of years or not, and whether they're showing signs of problems in their roots.
Great. So was there anything else about this site that you want to talk about, or about cover crops?
I'm not sure there's a whole lot more. I mean, for us, we're really trying to focus on the G series, and they're not perfect. Sorry, Geneva people. There are some issues, but we have found on our soil type that the G935s are performing really well. We're getting good tree structure, we're getting early crops off them, and it's working well for us. I would be hesitant to plant too much more of the M26s going forward. Not to say that we won't, but we'd be a little more hesitant. And it's not always possible to get the G series, and so you work with what you got. And so we just know now Honeycrisp and 26s we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to. These trees are only spaced 2 feet apart, so we're not going to be putting them much closer than that. We're trying to get them up to that top, and they are irrigated, so they shouldn't be under a lot of stress. So G series is our preferred rootstock. G935, I should say, not G series. G935 is our preferred rootstock, and then we will, but sometimes you got to take what you can get.
Okay, we're at our final stop now, and it's one of the Nova Scotia Fruit Growers Association weather stations. So Lisa, can you tell us if the station has helped with any of your management decisions this year?
Yeah, it absolutely has. We do have a weather station, a small one, that we use for leaf wetness sensor it has on it and temperature. And so we do use that kind of as a guide, but this is a premium weather station, and super handy because I can just look on my phone and see what's going on at any time, no matter where I am. So this has been really helpful in determining a lot of things. One, just the wind speed alone. We didn't have anything to measure wind speed. And as farmers, we're super awesome at looking at the trees and telling how fast the wind is going. But it's also nice to have something to back that up with as well. So that's been super helpful. The leaf wetness sensor that's on this is great because, I know it's being maintained the way it's supposed to be maintained. That helps a lot. Again, helps make some decisions about spraying for scab. So I really like that. And again, it's just a guide, like it's not, when it's dry, but it's a guide for you. So it's been super helpful that way. And probably the biggest benefit is for fire blight. By far. Yeah.
So do you run your own Mary Blight model?
I do run my own Mary Blight model. I appreciate and view everything that's coming to me from our station as well, from yourself. But I also like to do it for myself because I like to understand it. I also like to plug in numbers that are what's going to happen. And even though we get some of that information, it's hard to do predictions for everybody for everything that you're doing, right? So, if I get a mill of rain, but you may not think I get a mill of rain. I want to know. I want to know if the day is 1 degree warmer. I want to know right then and there is what's tomorrow's going to look like for spraying, and I want to make sure I have the product on hand and I'm prepared. And so I like to run my own scenarios and just understand it the best I can, because nothing's foolproof, right? Like everything has there can be things that go wrong with anybody's system, and the longer I do it, the more comfortable I get, and then I can double check it with whatever you're sending, so I know that, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? Like we have the same data in there.
Yes.
So I like that.
Awesome. And you mentioned rainfall, so have you been checking that on the app and the website? Do you look at like the daily summaries? Is that helpful to you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much addicted to weather. So whether it's Environment Canada or the Weather Network, they're both apps on my phone. You're checking them. I couldn't even tell you how many times a day I would check those. And now that I have this, I'm not just checking my data, but of course you're like checking out everybody else's data around the valley to see what's going on, and how did they get 20 mils of rain and I only got 5, right? Like what? Anyways, so it's kind of fun to have it for that purpose. But the rainfall amounts, we have rain gauges around, but this is again so handy because you're not always at the farm site and you don't have rain gauges everywhere, right? So we know that when when we have a big rainfall, we don't know, well, was it 10, 15, 20? That's going to make a decision about whether you need or if you need to spray again. And so it's super helpful to have that information right here. And again, it's accurate, it's reliable. We don't have to empty the rain gauges. How many people, besides me, sometimes forget to empty the rain gauges, and then you get the next rain, you're like, oh, what did it have in it before? So it's so important, I think, as growers to have real, at the time information, accurate.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so important.
Great. So do you have any dreams for the future? Like, how would you like this data to be used? Are there any models that you're interested in?
Yeah, so two that I could think of was, the degree days accumulations for collie moth.
Yeah.
That would be really great to have something like that, because again, it's very specific to your farm and your site. So and just get that timing just right. So that'd be one thing, and the carbohydrate model, of course, would be, for making our thinning decisions, that would be like one of the, I think, best things we could utilize for a model with these weather stations.
Yeah.
Someday.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And then the Mary Blight is the given.
I just assume that's in the works, right? I just assume that someone's working on this because I imagine you and Erica are probably, not going to fill in that data manually forever.
Yeah.
So eventually we're going to have to take it to the next step. But we do appreciate the efforts that goes into getting all that data for us in the meantime, because that's a big job.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for having us on your farm. Really appreciate it, and I think I speak for everyone too. So I will give you the round of applause from the industry, and thank you very much.
Thank you.